sure what year this is. Probably 1800s. The Time Ball Special is basically a Swiss fake, as they would call them back then. So I got it. It's wound up tight. It's not really running. Well, it runs a little bit, but it gets stuck. I noticed that the seconds hand gets stuck underneath the hour hand. So that tells me that the hour hand is probably pressed up against the dial and it jams the second hand. So it got free. Now it's going to go make revolution. Probably get stuck again. But at least it's ticking. And look at this. It's
a train.
A railroad train, yeah. So the little thing behind this is that back in the day, they made railroad grade watches. And the Swiss weren't very good at making watches. They were kind of the underdog back then, before they became famous for making wristwatches, like high precision and, very high quality wristwatches. Back in these days, in the 1900s, pocket watch ages, America ruled. So Switzerland was trying to catch up. And let's see. Oh, look, see, it got stuck. Second hand stopped. So, yeah, it got stuck.
So anyways, we're going to open it up and fix it.
So looking at the back. So this is a Swiss fake of, a railroad grade watch. That's why they even put a railroad there to say, oh, we're railroad grade, but they're not approved. They're just totally doing their thing. So now you can see it ticking.
Oh, it has 21 joules.
21 joules.
Time Ball Special.
A Time Ball Special. So my guess is that they were trying to mimic the Ball Company. The Ball Company, which made railroad grade watches. Pretty much all their watches were approved for railroad. And the Swiss, of course, you can't copy the name, so they call it a Time Ball instead of Ball Special. And 21 joules back in the day basically meant you had a high quality watch and it's going to last a while.
Okay.
So the lower grade ones, you had maybe 7 joules. 7 joules or maybe 12, 15 joules, and they were considered like less expensive. So the more joules you had, generally more valuable. So the thing about some of these time balls is that sometimes you'll come by these joules, they're totally non-functional. Like it's just there for decoration, which is, they call it a 21, but maybe 2 are not used. So 21, 20, 19 joule, But I think in this one, the joules are all actually used. So kind of cool. And there seems to be one screw missing. Don't know why. So this is what we're looking at. So the first thing you want to do, since it's all wound up, is you want to kind of let it down. But you can't, since they don't have a pawl here, like a catch pawl, to release the tension on the mainspring, we'll have to take out the movement and figure out how they do it. So this is my first time opening a watch like this particular one, so I don't know how they let down the mainspring. Okay, so let's take a look what's in the front. Pretty nice dial. Okay. So looking at this, I see a little catch inside here. So maybe that's what releases the mainspring. But I don't want to stick a screwdriver in there because, as you can see, if you use a case opener or a screwdriver, you run the risk of chipping your dial or cracking your dial, so you gotta be pretty careful. This is actually a porcelain dial. Porcelain with print, so first thing I will do in this case, I'm just ticking, so be it. Let's see if I can remove the balance wheel. Just get it out of the way so it's less chance of being in danger of getting whacked or bent or some horrible thing happening to it.
And you want to also get a towel so it doesn't, so you don't drop the screw and bounce off and then you have to go chase for it.
Pretty much, yeah. It's no fun having to dig for or look for screws in your room, so try to make sure you have a clean work area. There we go. Carefully lift it up. I think that other screw is not actually being used for anything. This little screw here, so let's try to lift it up around it carefully.
is the other screw there for then?
It holds on this cover plate probably, or maybe it holds in the winding staff. Oops. Yep. I could pick it up like this actually. That should be fine.
So the spring comes out.
Yeah, so this is the delicate part, of course. Everybody knows that. Hairspring and your balance wheel, balance pivots, etc., etc., etc. So carefully set that aside. Okay, and here we have the body. So I'm not sure exactly what that screw would release, but so pull it out, pull out the stem till it clicks, and there's always two securing screws. This one seems to have already been undone somehow, so whatever. Do this toe, pops out by its base, and here we go. These are the insides. Time Ball Special. Looks pretty clean.
Yep. But if you need to clean it, how do you clean it?
Well, you gotta take it apart to clean it. I mean, you could do it the lazy way and just take off your mainspring and the faceplate and give it a swish in the ultrasonic cleaner. But to properly clean it, you want to take it all apart into little pieces, inspect the gears for little bits of dust that get stuck in there. So all these little gears in here, they'll tend to get lint and other garbage stuck between the teeth.
And then that will stop the...
Yep, it'll tend to
watch
make it run erratically and jam it up. So that's one of the main issues that pocket watches or wristwatches space for that matter. You know, just garbage getting it comes in from either the front or the back when you're doing something with it, or it comes in from the top where your stem is, you know, lint from your pocket, and then eventually it travels in there and it settles on your gears. And you know, these were meant to be serviced. That's just the big picture. Pocket watches were never really meant to run forever. They're meant to be serviced every few years.
So how old is this watch?
I'm guessing some around 1800s or early 1900s. I'm not entirely sure because there's no serial number documentation on this particular brand.
Okay. So this is a Swiss.
It's a Swiss watch. They call them Swiss fakes.
Okay.
Not particularly highly valuable, but I kind of like the fact that it's a 21 jewel and maybe it'll run okay. So Swiss fakes tend not to have temperature compensation on the balance wheel. So balance wheels with temperature compensation will have two little slits on there. So as the metal expands, it doesn't go out. It goes a little bit longer, and therefore is not changing the timing with the temperature. But since this doesn't have those little slits on there, it expands with higher temperature and means it'll run slower.
So how accurate is the time then?
I don't know. If you put it on a time grapher, you can see how it changes with temperature. But I don't have a time grapher here right now.
So are you going to take it all apart so that you can prepare for the cleaning, or?
I'm trying to figure out the best way to let down the mainspring.
Oh.
I mean, they have, I think right here, this is the mainspring release. Of course, if I trip that right now, it's going to make the wheel fly, and it will unlatch the arbor from the mainspring, and I'll have to open it up and bend the spring back around to reattach it to the arbor.
Oh.
So ideally, you want to let it down gently.
Will it ruin the watch if you do that?
Not necessarily. I mean, it technically could break the mainspring. I mean, it certainly bends up the tongue when you release all the tension instantly. Basically, this is the catch, and it will let the thing just freewheel instantly, and it's a lot of power there. So the best way I would see would be, I'm thinking about taking the stem off perhaps, and then, you know, releasing this and then manually like giving it some friction at the tip over here so that it'll unwind and I can use my fingers to break it so that it lets it down slowly instead of everything at once. But exactly how I want to do that and strategizing. This is my first time working on a watch like this, so I mean, ideally you want to take off the dial too, but I don't have the pliers for it right now, or the pullers. I might be able to get away with it like this.
So proper tool is very important.
Yeah, proper tools are good.
So you just keep it back in the case so that way it doesn't pop and spring goes everywhere.
Yeah.
Okay.
Use a smaller screwdriver. One of our best friends is going to be a good set of jeweler screwdrivers, so if you're going to get into this, be sure to invest in good screwdrivers.
So these are jeweler screwdrivers?
Yep, these are Bergeon.
These are Bergeon screwdrivers?
Yep, they're quality screwdrivers. This is just not the smartest way to do this. I should pull off the dial. I don't run the risk of chipping it, but... Okay.
So you think this watch could be 100 years old?
That's probably about 100 at least.
Okay. There's no documentations of this particular brand on in there.
Not
on
that I
the
know of.
internet.
Yeah. I don't have a hand puller, but you can pull these hands off pretty easily because it's a pocket watch.
Okay, so you pull off the...
Yeah. I just stick a fingernail in there and I pull it. I mean, there's a proper hand puller where you stick inside there and it's like a little grasshopper. Grabs on and you squeeze it and it pulls it off. But since these are pretty loosely built, I could just use, a fingernail, pop it under there and pop it off.
So the Swiss watch back in the day wasn't very high quality versus the U.S. made.
But even the U.S. ones, I mean, pocket watches are big, unlike wristwatches. So if you have like a wristwatch, this will be super tiny and it'll be more difficult. You'll need a proper hand puller to get the hands off. But since it's a pocket watch and not a particularly valuable one, just...
But back in the day, they prefer pocket watch because that's the fashion.
Well, that's all they had. Before wristwatches, they had pocket watches, which were bulky, and that's why they lost popularity, because wristwatches are very small and... So as it be known, this is probably not the best way to pull the seconds hand. If you're not careful, you run the risk of also chipping or cracking your dial. So keep in mind.
Tedious.
Very tedious. Be careful how you pry. There it is. So this is also another area where people tend to damage their watches. So doing stupid things like that, they will just jam it in there and pry, and it'll take a chip out of your dial. Or here you'll find chips in the dial. Another thing I noticed is when they tighten the dial on with the dial screws, sometimes they'll jam it in there, or maybe they'll push on the dial and it will bend the face, and you'll end up with a bunch of chipping and cracking. So I see a crack right here. My guess is that's where the mounting stud is underneath here, and maybe they missed it and someone just tried to jam the face on and ended up bending the dial there. We'll see shortly.
So this one has the second, too. The second.
Second what? This is the second hand.
Yeah.
Sub-seconds. So it's it's double sunk. So that means that this part's sunk, and then this little dial's recessed also. So you have outside, and this is in, and this is a little further in. Kind of cool. Makes it look nice. So how do we get the dial off of this guy? Oh, how interesting. Someone bent it. That's why it's cracked. A little crack
So
right there.
it looked like someone had gotten into it before.
Yeah, someone messed with this before. So someone screwed this screw in too tight and bent the dial right here.
Oh.
And there's a crack. Some hairline cracks right here.
So
There's one screw.
unscrew it and see if you can fix it.
Well, you can't fix the cracks once they're in there. But you just gotta know, don't screw these things in too tight, because damage it. So that's interesting. There's a little. He has the mounting peg screwed in this way, kind of similar to how I see on some of these wristwatches. A small screw recessed here. Maybe they didn't have a lot of luck in getting it out. It looks stripped, but I got it. So here's the release. Here's another mounting stud. See, what happened is someone bent this mounting stud in there. I don't know why. It's actually bent. It's bent inwards.
They didn't know how to fix it or something.
I don't know. That seems kind of stupid because these little screws are supposed to tighten it. But I don't know. I'm not the previous person who fixed it. I don't know who it is, and you just gotta kind of work around it. Okay, off it comes. Careful, careful. See, it's kind of crooked. Yeah, these pegs are just really crooked. Not a good sign. Once you start bending these, you run risk of flexing the metal, and the metal is bonded to the porcelain, and you'll then end up with chips and chunks and cracks. But so now that it's already like that, I'm just going to leave it. I don't want to bend it around at risk of damaging it even further. So this is the insides. Here's the face. So there's always this little spring. See this little wafer spring over here? This pushes the hour hand, against the inside so it doesn't wobble back and forth. It doesn't come out, so don't lose that. Remember, it always dishes up. So if you look at it, it dishes up. Just like that.
And so if you put it back incorrectly, dis it down,
it'll probably work too, but that's just conventional the way it's supposed to, supposed to be mounted. I always pull these guys off. They just fall off if you start playing with this and don't take them off. So once you pull the face off, those two come off. Sometimes this pawl comes off too. But yeah, so now you can see the insides. And yeah, see, this is the little catch. So when you wind up the watch, this is the
whiner.
Yeah, that's the pawl that keeps it from winding back. So now that we're safer, I can stick it back in there and have at it without damaging the dial or the hands or the balance wheel. I could probably just lock it back in there real quick. Oh, this is screwed all the way in there. Okay, pull it back out.
So you just naturally learn how to fix this pocket watch.
No, I worked on some cheapy, junky watches from Goodwill and learned how to work on watches. You get the cheapy, crappy ones that everyone's got, and they're worth a couple bucks or less, and you learn, and you break some, and you learn, and you break some. So, yep, shouldn't do that. And then later on, when you want to get serious, you've already done your time and broken enough watches, and you're good to go. Well, safer anyways.
So it's basically self-taught, right?
Kinda.
You break enough watch by opening up, and
you break a few.
and
some
then
pieces fly, and you break a few balance wheels, or you have a few gears that get lost, or whatever. I mean, you try to be careful, but if you're a noob, things happen. I'm by no way professional here, but at least I kind of know what to avoid. I'm doing a fully unprofessional job at working on this, but see, now it's released. Watch. Now it's winding down. See? Now I can more controlledly wind it down without damaging the mainspring. It's a pretty crappy watch. I can just feel the coarseness of the gears grinding around. It's going grind and ping, and there we are.
So continue to take out more screw
Yep.
and
So now I'm taking out
the back.
Yep, taking out the gears, winding gears.
So you're taking out the winding gear.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything underneath the winding gear? Like a mid-man winder?
No, it's just, I mean,
Where's the jewels? Where's the 21 jewels? We want to see that.
we'll see the jewels as we get along.
And then we can count it to see if it's really 21.
Yeah. So this guy over here. I don't know why this is just releasing.
Are you going to be able to put it back together without a manual?
Yeah. Buck watches are pretty straightforward.
It looks like it's very complicated.
It's just spinning freely.
Oh, is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Not very helpful if you're trying to open it up. So I'm going to take it out. And...
Does it make to be taken apart, or is it
Oh, they're all made to be taken apart. These are made to be serviced.
Okay.
But somehow the screw for the winding.
I can't believe that. It looks good for being over 100 years old.
Oh, yeah. Those Longines pocket watches from way back when are good shape too. So, yeah.
So
for some reason, I couldn't release that one screw here.
So those things stay on there, right? Or did they come off?
This is supposed to come off. I think it might be stripped or something.
Does it need to come off?
Well, and I want to, when you do a proper cleaning, you want to get inside the mainspring and give it some oil or cleaning, but I don't know why that screw is not coming off.
Maybe the screw is stuck?
It might be stripped.
Strip, as in it can't turn?
Well, it's turning freely. I don't know why it's turning freely. See?
Oh, maybe that part.
But it's not getting loose, so that's kind of odd. I'll have to look into why it's doing that. I don't know why. But I know if I yank on this, probably it's going to yank the mainspring straight out of here and it's going to fly and it's going to suck. So I don't want to.
You don't want to do that.
I'll look at that later. Yeah, this is the inside. So now you can see some of the jewels.
Okay, and what are the
These are
jewels?
the cap jewels.
One.
Well, it's actually one, and underneath that is a second jewel. So
two.
and on the other side too, there's the cap jewels, and underneath there's a this little main
That's the
bearing.
jewel.
There's a jewel under there. So this one doesn't have a cap jewel, but these have two underneath there. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can go 4, 8. This one doesn't have a cap jewel either. Wasn't it? Oh no, I don't think so. Okay, so 4, 8. So in the main, this would be 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. I'm guessing there's pallet jewels. 19, 20, and
Where's the 21?
the number 1 jewel, the number 21 is probably on here. I can't see it, but it's the roller jewel. So this guy's got one little jewel hidden right here.
No.
That tiny little thing, that's another jewel. Probably garnet or glass or ruby or who knows. Hard to say.
So normally the jewels are made out of glass or ruby?
Back then it was kind of loose, so it could be all kinds of different things. You know, sometimes they would use glass before they specified rubies or garnets or whatever.
So the jewels in these watches,
I don't know. This, I don't know, it looks pretty...
glass?
They made them red, but it could be red glass or it might be ruby. Hard really to say. You know, I don't know too much about the history of, this particular fig. Some of them were built well, some were more crappy. So...
When you say fake, what do you mean? It's not built like...
It's, so basically what they tried to do, Swiss tried to imitate American watches. They would make them look similar, and like this one they call them time ball. When they're actually trying to copy the ball company. But since you can't use the same name, they call it Time Ball. But then people think, ooh, it's a ball special, and 21 jewels. It sounds great. So,
So it's a
But this is
branding and a way for them to sell their watch.
yeah. So they're trying to get a piece of the market that the American pocket watches have. And this is called, the brand is C.I. Mort M-O-R, or is it maybe N on top of a microscope? Oh, N. C-I-N-O-R-T-H-I-E-R. Northier Sandoz Swiss.
Mm.
Yeah, that's what it says there. C.I. Morthier or Northier Sandoz Swiss. I know Sandoz, they made a lot of car watches too, car clocks, like old.
Are they durable and do they worth anything?
Well, I would say, this is probably one, looks to me like a fairly decent quality pocket watch. Although it might not be necessarily worth a whole lot, it's, it's a really cool watch. It actually is 21 jewels. And we'll see how it times out. Once we get it all working, we can see, how well it runs. I mean, the winding mechanism isn't everything. It doesn't, it feels a little crude, but not like, not complete garbage.
So how are you going to clean it? Are you done taking it apart?
Well, I would take it apart more. We can do that another time. But take it apart, and you could take all the gears out individually. And then run them in the ultrasonic cleaner. And get all the crud off of there. Do an inspection under the microscope. Make sure there's no garbage inside the gears and the teeth, and make sure it's clean. Get all the muck out. Scrub it all out, and then lubricate the jewels. Put some oil back in the back of the jewels.
So how do you lubricate the jewels? With oil?
Yep, watch oil.
Oh, okay.
Synthetic watch oil.
Will you share the way that you lubricate the jewels and the
Yep, we can do it another
gear?
time. Yeah.
Okay, sure.
But, this is the start, so we got most of it apart. You can see its innards.
Okay.
So yeah.
All
That's
right.
the beginning.
That's the beginning of taking apart the
Time Ball
Ball
Special
21 jewels.
Yep.
Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for another episode of cleaning and dusting and putting it back together.